Hello and welcome to Baseball America's Top Prospect Show, where we discuss the hottest young players in the league, who is on the rise, and who might make an impact as early as this season. I'm Gareth Kwok. We'll bring in J.J. Cooper and Carlos Collazo to shed some light on the top prospects and talk about the state of the minor leagues. Right now, let's send it to Zach Keenan, who gives us a snapshot of Baseball America's Top 100.
Let's take a look at the first 10 players on Baseball America's Top 100 list. It's stacked with position players, and we'll start off with Wander Franco. The Rays shortstop is the #1 player for the second year in a row. The switch hitter from the Dominican Republic hit .336 with 20 home runs and 110 RBI in the minors. And a fun fact as well, he's the nephew of former Angels infielder and Gold Glove winner Eric Ibar. Checking in on that list at number 5 is Spencer Torkelson. The Sun Devil for life was the #1 pick in the 2020 draft. He was a standout at ASU, but making the jump from college to the pros hasn't been easy for Torkelson. He had a rough spring for the Tigers, but I wouldn't worry too much because he's got exactly what it takes. You'll hear us talk a little more about this young infielder in just a bit. We've actually got 3 pitchers in our top 10, and one of those, right-hander for the Braves, it's Ian Anderson, our next prospect. He made his rookie debut in the COVID-shortened season last year. The Atlanta Braves have him at the 3 spot in the rotation this season. Braves are looking for big things from the young starter. He gets to retain his rookie status in 2021. But for more on some of the hottest prospects in the game, let's send it back to Gareth Kwok, standing by with Baseball America writer J.J. Cooper.
JJ, thanks for stopping by. Now, spring training is officially in the books. Season is just underway, and a lot of prospects made a strong case for themselves this spring training. Who are some guys that you see making an immediate impact in MLB in 2021?
Well, the crazy thing with the shortened 2020 season that we have, a lot of guys who you may think, oh, they're not prospects anymore. They're still prospects because of the shortened season. So if you look in the American League, Randy Arozarena feels like he's been around for a while now because he was one of the stars of the Major League playoffs last year. May have been the Rays' best hitter in the postseason last year. Still rookie eligible, still a prospect. It's hard not to imagine him being one of the better hitters in Tampa Bay's lineup as they try to get back to the World Series for a second straight year. He's got power. He's got speed. We saw all of that in the postseason last year. Should be a key factor for them. You look in also in the American League, Andrew Vaughn, who really hadn't had a whole lot of time to have a minor league career because obviously there wasn't a minor league season in 2020. But Andrew Vaughn, even with that, is going to jump straight to the majors with the White Sox. Was supposed to be their DH, playing a little bit of first base. Then Eloy Jimenez goes down, and so they say, okay, we're going to give you some on-the-job training to see if you can handle left field. We're going to see how the left field part works. I'm not as confident on that part. I'm pretty confident, though, that he is going to hit. So he's another guy definitely to watch in the American League. On the National League side, Ian Anderson, much like we talked about Randy Arozarena, Ian Anderson, the Braves right-hander, was one of Atlanta's stars of both the regular season and the postseason last year. At one point, when they were down to about 2 pitchers in the starting rotation they could count on, he was one of those 2. The command, the ability to mix 3 pitches, he should be one of the better young pitchers in the National League. But keeping it in that same division, Sixto Sanchez, the right-hander for the Marlins, kind of a similar story. He helped get Miami to the playoffs last year. He throws 100. He's got an excellent changeup. We've been waiting for Sixto. He's had a couple of injuries to work through back when he was a Phillies prospect and then after he was traded to Miami. But we're seeing what Sixto Sanchez can do now. And with that being the case, those 2 guys could have a very interesting battle for National League Rookie of the Year race this year.
Now, you mentioned a lot of guys that are on the opening day roster, and they're already making their impacts felt immediately. How about some guys that aren't necessarily ready just yet, but that you could see being called up in the summer and down the road?
Well, the one that jumps out the most is probably Rays shortstop Wander Franco, our #1 prospect in the game. Wander Franco is as good a young hitting prospect we've seen in several years. Amazing bat-to-ball skills. He does not strike out. He doesn't swing and miss much, really. Now, the other thing he has is he has defensive versatility, which is important because kind of figuring out where he's going to play in Tampa Bay and St. Pete's going to be a little hard to figure out because they have Willy Adames at shortstop, his natural position. They have Brandon Lau at second base, which is probably Wander Franco's second best position. But he can also play third base. that may be the spot he first kind of steps in with the Rays. Now, the thing I'll say for the Rays is they also like to move guys around. Wander Franco's really ready to help with that. One other guy I think I should probably mention is Mariners outfielder Jared Kelenic. Didn't make the opening day roster. There was some comments that the former now president of the Mariners said that he wasn't going to make the opening day roster this year for service time reasons, but it's hard to believe he won't be up before too long. There's the key acquisition they had in the Robinson Cano Edwin Diaz trade a couple years ago with the Mets. He's ready to show what he can do on a rapidly rebuilding Seattle team.
Speaking of the Mariners, Kyle Lewis and the Milwaukee Brewers' Devin Williams were Rookies of the Year last season. Now, who do you see as being AL and NL Rookies of the Year for this season?
It's hard to not think that Randy Arozarena is going to be a factor in that. We already talked about, for the Rays, you look at what Arozarena did last year. He should be a key factor in the American League race. And Vaughn is also a guy to watch because, again, he's going to get regular at-bats and he's going to get a chance to put up production over the course of a full season. So you're talking about a sleeper, a dark horse candidate in the American League. I think I'd probably have to go to Bobby Whit Jr., the shortstop for the Royals. Yes, that's the son of former big league pitcher Bobby Witt. Bobby Whit Jr. was one of the stars, the standouts of spring training. Hit a 484-foot home run, showed his speed. He can play short. He can play second. He's not on the opening day roster, but it wouldn't be surprising at all to see him come up in May or June to provide a big boost to an improving Royals club. In the National League, we talked about Ian Anderson and Sixto Sanchez. Those are two pitchers who I think you absolutely have to watch. Other guy I would throw into that is his Cardinals outfielder Dylan Carlson. Had a rough start when he came up last year, which is the only reason probably he's prospect eligible still. Went back down, came back up again at the second half of the shortened season last year. Was batting cleanup for St. Louis in the playoffs. Can play all three outfield spots. Just a really well-rounded player. A guy who may not win a home run title, may never win a batting title, but he's going to hit for average. He's going to hit for some power. He's going to play good defense. He's going to run. He's going to do a lot of things that help a team win.
A lot of young talent rising up in the ranks and ready to showcase their abilities. JJ, thanks for stopping by. Coming up, a quick game of Would You Rather. Would you rather have CJ Abrams or Bobby Witt Jr. as your shortstop? So stay tuned. But first, a look at numbers 50 through 100 on Baseball America's Top 100 Prospects list. Moving down the list on Baseball America's Top Prospects list, CJ Abrams checks in at number 11. The Padres shortstop is widely regarded as the next big thing, but as reporter James Malamus tells us, his road to the bigs is slightly complicated.
The number 6 overall pick in 2019, CJ Abrams is making a big impact in his first big league camp. The former rookie Arizona League MVP was sent to the Padres alternate site last year to develop his game.
We went out there and worked. I mean, everybody worked hard, got better, and just picked up things that you would playing any game.
Abrams has elite athleticism with his combination of top-end speed and hitting. Throughout his time at the alternate site, he worked on his strength and glove work. His versatility bodes well for the natural shortstop, who may have to explore other positions.
He's athletic, he's long, he's got, tremendous reach. So we think, his range is going to be a real weapon for him, going forwards. He has great hand-eye, which helps him with some of those defensive plays, being able to get to balls, and then he's athletic. He can finish the play with good throws.
It is unclear if Abrams will be the Padres shortstop of the future, considering he is playing behind Fernando Tatis Jr., who just signed a 14-year contract with the Padres, cementing him at that position. Abrams isn't letting that affect him, though. His motto is to control what he can control and continue to work. With the chance to play behind a special talent, Abrams is going to learn as much as he can.
It's big, Tatis is obviously a great player, and being able to work with him and see him daily is amazing.
The Padres have already moved Abrams around, playing him at shortstop and second base during spring training. There have even been talks about playing him at center field, too, due to his speed. The Padres manager, Jace Tingler, is committed to keeping him focused at shortstop for as long as possible, but will continue to play him at other positions to help develop his game.
primary, again, is going to be at shortstop, but we are going to ask him to do some other things, and we're going to practice getting uncomfortable and play a position that maybe he hadn't played before, and that's just part of the natural just growth of a young player.
The impression Abrams has made so far could mean he'll be making his major league debut sooner rather than later. In Peoria, James Malamis, Baseball America.
Abrams was impressive this spring, and he will start the season in the minor leagues. And he's not the only shortstop in the top 20. Zach Keenan, who else is on that list?
Well, Gareth, you mentioned Abrams at number 11, and while he's a great prospect, if you go down 3 more on the list, you'll find our 14th ranked Bobby Whit Jr., shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, another monster talent at the 6th spot. Like Abrams, he was also in big league camp this spring, and besides having just a total blast, living his dream, Whit says he's trying to learn as much as he can.
Just being around the big league guys, as well as the summer camp last year, just knowing how they do things, how they go about the business, because this is my ultimate goal, to be a big leaguer, and they're already there. So I just try to watch them, ask them questions, and do that. And I've been pretty much doing that throughout the whole camp, and I felt a lot more comfortable with just all the positions that I'm playing now, and just at the plate, and just being around the coaches, and then just them teaching me and helping me. And I just really felt like pretty much back playing the game that I've always played, and nothing really sped up too much, really. And now I feel really comfortable, and I feel like this is where I'm kind of supposed to be right now.
Whit said it was surreal being in camp this spring, and to beat his nerves, he just focused on how much fun he was having. For more on the shortstops of the future, let's send it back to Gareth.
Carlos, thanks for stopping by. Now, teams are always hoping to draft their next franchise shortstop, and the Kansas City Royals and San Diego Padres certainly have them in Bobby Whit Jr. and CJ Abrams, respectively. Both of them had really solid spring trainings, both of them shortstops from the 2019 draft class out of high school. Carlos, what makes these two so special on the diamond?
Yeah, both these players are just very naturally gifted. Both were seen as top of the class talents coming out of high school. As you mentioned, they were both kind of in that elite tier of prospects in a very top heavy 2019 draft class. But I think really the dynamic tool sets that each of these players have is what sets them apart for me. I think with Bobby Whit Jr., you're looking at a guy who has 60 grade tools across the board. That's very rare to not only be a 5-tool player, but to be a 5-tool player that has true 60 grade tools. There were only 2 players in our prospect handbook that had 60s or better across the board, and one of those was Bobby Whit Jr. His ability to impact a game at any level, whether that's offensively in the batter's box, hitting for average, hitting for power, speed out of the box and on the bases, and then just a very instinctive, polished defender at shortstop as well, with a strong enough arm to make those extra plays that you're looking for a major league shortstop. So that's really what separates Whit. For Abrams, he also has dynamic tools. I think it's a little bit different, where he's a guy who is a true top of the scale runner, one of the best runners in his class coming out of the draft. It's an 80 grade tool, and that's game changing speed, whether that's offensively out of the box and in terms of racking up a lot of stolen bases. Once he's on base, that speed also translates to his defensive game as well, whether that's being a really rangy up the middle shortstop or second baseman, or if he eventually has to move to center field just because of the talent that the Padres have at their major league level. I think he could be a very good defensive center fielder in there because of his speed. But for Abrams offensively, I think his pure bat to ball skills really stand out. He was extremely good at just making contact on a variety of pitches as a drafted player. And then when he got a small taste in pro ball as well, he really did well because of that innate barrel to ball ability that he possesses that is really just hard to teach. So I think those are kind of some of the tools that separate these two guys.
Now, both were not able to have a minor league season last season, but how far away do you see both of these guys before they make it to the bigs?
Yeah, for both of these guys, it's really impressive how advanced they are. Like you said, only having very short time in rookie ball after their draft year. So it'll be interesting to see how their teams push them. I think they both showed in spring training that they're certainly capable of handling big league pitching and big league talent. I think it always depends on team need for these sorts of decisions. I think Witt probably is in a little bit better of a position to move quickly just because some of the holes you see in Kansas City's lineup at the major league level right now. He's a guy who, after he really plays well in Double-A, if he gets a chance there to start the minor league season, could come up pretty quickly, fill a hole at shortstop if there's a need there, or he could also play second or third base with some of the talent they already have on their team. I think with Abrams, it's maybe a little bit more challenging to see him moving up as quickly as an infielder. They obviously have Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado on the left side as a pretty dynamic major league infield. But like I was saying earlier, I think he has the ability to play a number of positions. And if he hits AA pitching or just more upper level minor league pitching and shows that he's ready, I think there are a number of places that he could fit with this Padres team. So I think both could be quick movers depending on how they handle minor league pitching and really their first normal taste of a minor league season. I would give the edge to Witt just because of team need and team fit at this point, however.
Well, you mentioned both of these guys have similar skill sets. Both have different situations, of course, in their respective organizations. But if you had to pick one over the other, who would you take between Whit Jr. or Abrams?
Yeah, it's a tough conversation. I think it's one where if you ask scouts in the industry, you'd have a lot of people that say Abrams. You'd have a lot of people that say Witt. Here at Baseball America, every writer ranks their top 100 prospects as we kind of make our top 100 collectively. For me, I've always been very high on Bobby Witt Jr. I had him solidly in my top 10, and I would have Abrams just slightly behind him. I think the separator for me personally is just I have a lot of confidence that Bobby Whit Jr. is going to play shortstop at a high level. I think he's always shown that defensive ability going back to high school. Not to say that Abrams can't do that, but I think he's come a long way in terms of his development at the position since joining pro ball. And really just going back to what I mentioned earlier about his all-around tool set, I just think it's very rare to have a player who's that toolsy at that many different areas of his game. So I just feel a lot of confidence that he's going to be an impactful player. And however that turns out, if he's not as good a hitter, I think he has a lot of supplemental tools he can fall back on to still provide a lot of value. While at the same time, I think he has pretty outstanding offensive upside. So really that all-around blend of dynamic tool set would put Bobby Witt Jr. ahead for me. But I can see people going the other direction as well.
Well, Bobby Witt Jr., C.J. Abrams, they're at the top of their farm systems respectively. How about the rest of their organization and the rest of their farm system between Kansas City and San Diego? Who's looking in good shape right now?
Yeah, I think they both are. They seem to be in different spots. San Diego has had a top 10 farm system for us the last 4 years, and I think their system overall is trending down, but it's trending down for the right reasons. They've made a lot of trades in the past 2 years that's really taken some of the depth of their system, but they've traded away 20 plus prospects who were in their top 30 at one point, and they still have a top 10 system, which really speaks to both the quality and the quantity of depth of prospects that they had. I still think their top 6 prospects probably stack up with really most teams in baseball. And then for the Royals, it's interesting talking about Bobby Witt Jr. at the top of their list because they're really a very pitching heavy farm system at this point. The team has targeted a lot of college pitchers in the draft in recent years. And it's an interesting strategy when many teams go for hitters, but I think that's going to pay dividends for them moving forward. They've got guys like Daniel Lynch and Asa Lacy, who are two of the best left-handed pitching prospects in baseball. And I really think that they're going to have a lot of impressive arms that you're going to start seeing at the big league level soon. So I think for both of these teams, their top half farm systems, San Diego's is still probably a little bit more elite in terms of the high-end guys they have with Abrams, a guy like Robert Hassel, who was the best pure hitter in the draft last year. But I think Kansas City is certainly trending in the right direction, and they're going to be picking early in the draft in the next few years to really add some more talent to that farm system as well. So different stages, but you can be excited about them for different reasons at this point if you're a fan of either club.
Kansas City, they got a lot of pitching. Same with San Diego, Mackenzie Gore being one of the big names out there. Both of these teams on the rise, and they could be looking real good in the years to come. Carlos, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, COVID-19 changed everything last season, from the minor leagues to the fan experience. We'll tell you everything you need to know for this season. But first, here's 25 through 50 on Baseball America's Top 100. Everyone usually keeps their eye on the prospects in the top 10 to 15. But Zach Keenan, who do you have in your top 25 that just missed the cut?
There's plenty of big names in the 16 to 25 range in the list of MLB prospects. Let's take a look at a few. Andrew Vaughn, number 21. He's already made his major league debut with the White Sox on opening day, no less. He was the number 3 pick in the 2019 draft, and he hadn't made it above A-level yet, but he's an offensive force to be reckoned with. He hit 50 home runs in over 150 games in his time in college at California. The White Sox hope to harness this offensive power, but there's nothing sweeter than having your first at-bat in the big leagues.
I mean, unbelievable getting to go up there, and thank goodness we have some fans in the stands. Kind of wish it was a guaranteed rate for the White Sox fans, but, it was special. I went up there, my legs were shaking a little bit, have the adrenaline rushing, the nerves pumping, and it was ultimately a great experience.
Who would have thought that having fans in the stands would be an experience to be missed? COVID-19 changed a lot of aspects from the game, from the fan experience, and even the minor leagues. Gareth Kwok caught back up with J.J. Cooper to discuss what the minor league situation is and how COVID-19 looks to shape this 2021 season.
JJ, welcome back. Now, the minor league baseball season doesn't start until May 4th. And this will be important for many minor leaguers, given that there was no season last year. JJ, how do you think this minor league season will help a lot of the younger players this season?
They need to play. They didn't get to play. Some of the minor league players got to go to alternate site last year. Some got to go to instructional league. But for pretty much almost all of them, 2021 will be their first real game action in basically a year and a half. And that's vital because baseball there's always an ever ticking clock. It is something where you want to be moving up the ladder, and last year they didn't get a chance to do that. It's also going to be important for the minor league teams. There was a lot of reshuffling. There was a major reorganization as Major League Baseball now has taken over governance of the minor leagues and ended up cutting some teams in doing so. But the key things for the 120 teams that will be playing is they didn't get any revenue last year. They're almost like a farmer where you have a growing season and then you have every other part of the year. Well, they didn't have their growing season last year. They didn't have the tickets. They didn't have the fans coming through the gates. And so they desperately also need a season because they didn't really have any revenue. And so a lot of teams are in a very much kind of a tenuous economic existence as well.
Well, I'm sure you're excited to follow this minor league season, especially given that there's so many talented prospects. And who are some that you yourself are going to be following and most excited to watch?
I can't wait to see Yankees outfielder Jason Dominguez actually get on the field. Dominguez was the top international prospect, coming into international amateur a couple of years ago now. And we just keep waiting for him. He was supposed to make his debut in 2020. Not his fault. Of course, we didn't have a 2020 minor league season. But that being said, we hear so many good things about his power, about his hitting ability. He's kind of grown already into being a pretty massive, athlete, but we haven't got to see him play against real live pitching. And so it's hard not to be excited about that. Marco Luciano, the shortstop of the Giants, is another one, big time power potential. But again, much like we talked about with Jason Dominguez, at least Luciano's gotten onto the field in real life games, but we haven't seen a lot of him. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he comes out, has a big year in 2021 that we're talking about him as he's already one of the better prospects in the game, but maybe he's one of the best prospects in the game a year from now. And on top of that, Spencer Torkelson, number 1 pick last year of the Tigers. They drafted him as a third baseman, which is key because he's the first baseman in Arizona State. We'll see if he can handle third base. I'm a lot less worried about how well he's going to handle hitting because he's one of the better pure hitters to come out through the college ranks with big time power in several years. Really lost the chance of setting some home run records because last year's college season was also cut short. But Torkelson's one I cannot wait to see, hopefully in person at some point in 2021.
Yeah, I had the chance to see Torkelson in person before the season got cut short. Boy, it seemed like it was 2 results, either a home run or a walk. Pitchers did not want to face Torkelson whatsoever. Let's talk a little bit, though, about some of the unique aspects for this minor league season. What are some things that fans should know about heading into 2021?
If you go out to the ballpark, and the good news is it does look like we will be able to have fans at games, even at the start of the season in most all of the minor league stadiums. And we hope everyone's fingers crossed that as vaccination rates improve, as COVID infection rates drop, that maybe it'll continue to be expanded as the year goes along, as the season goes along. But fans should understand there are going to be some very key differences from what they have normally expected to see at a minor league game. The sumo wrestling, the kid racing the mascot around the bases, those aren't going to be happening because there's going to be very strict protocols that prevent any on-field promotions. They're going to keep the players and the staff pretty separate from the fans because of coronavirus. That also means it's going to be pretty hard to get autographs if you want to do that. You're probably not going to be sitting right behind the bullpen and chatting with the bullpen pitchers during the game like a lot of fans like to do, things like that. But at the same time, that's probably going to also spur some creativity because there's going to be minor league teams are going to figure out other ways to entertain the fans between innings. They're just going to have to be a lot really creative about it. The other thing is if you're a minor league player, they're ready to go. The staff and players want to get back out there. But they also have to, they know right now, they've come out with the minor league operations manual, and because of COVID, it's going to be a pretty strict limitations on what they can do. If you're on a road trip, you're pretty much in your hotel room. If you want to go to visit another teammate's hotel room, you have to get permission of the COVID compliance officer. If you want to leave the hotel, you have to get permission of the COVID compliance officer. If you want to hang out with some of your friends like in the lobby at the hotel, not allowed. You cannot congregate in public areas. You can't go to the gym in the hotel. It's going to be a pretty solitary life, for minor league players, at least at the start of the season. Again, the hope is maybe some of these restrictions get eased as the coronavirus pandemic starts to hopefully ease.
Yeah, it's gradual development that you're seeing here. Hopefully things start to be lifted coming soon. All right, final question for you that I got. It's not too early to start looking ahead to the next year's draft. Are you on the Jack Leiter, the Kumar Rocker train there? Who could be the number one prospect next year?
It's tough. We go back and forth. Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, shortstop Jordan Lawler, maybe shortstop Marcelo Meyer, a couple of high school shortstops. As we're recording this, it's hard not to be on the Jack Leiter train. Jack Leiter has been exceptional so far this season. He has a swing and miss fastball. He just keeps getting better. He's always known how to pitch. He's the son of a major league pitcher, Al Leiter. So he's been well schooled and was a very, very interesting prospect coming out of high school. Decided to go to Vandy. But the thing that stands out about it is that you look at what Leiter's done at Vandy. He's gotten stronger. He throws harder, and he's even a better pitcher. That's about everything you could hope for to see. So, if we're recording this right now, it would not shock me if Jack Leiter is not only just the number one pick in this year's draft, but also one of the top prospects in baseball if we're talking at this time next year.
Seems like every day every time he starts on social media, there's something about Jack Leiter on college baseball. But JJ, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of Baseball America's Top Prospect Show. On behalf of JJ Cooper, Carlos Collazo, and Zach Keenan, I'm Gareth Kwok. Thank you for joining us.